okay, let's see if we can't clear up a few things or at least get down what is fact and what we just don't know. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I'm not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And there's a number of things that I know have been swirling, and there's a number of things that I know people just don't know. All right, so let's start with fact here. And I'm going to preface this by saying later on, I have an upload going up that just runs through the commits for Oklahoma in the 2020 class, right? And it's basically a cursory glance so that folks that haven't been paying attention or just don't know about all the commits will know each and every one that is committed to the class. Now, that's something that I recorded quite a while ago, and by quite a while ago, I mean like hours ago, so it's not really old at all. But I did not address some things that I know that other folks who have been diehards, who have been paying attention to this side or that side, or even just Twitter, would like to know the answers to, and I'll tell you what I know, right, versus what I'm not prepared to talk about. So the first thing that I know is Jase McClellan is very much in play for Alabama and Oklahoma. I still would be shocked if he did not sign with Oklahoma, if for no other reason than he's had a 3-year relationship with this staff and with Lincoln Riley. The running backs coach hasn't gone anywhere. The offensive coordinator hasn't gone anywhere. The offensive line coach hasn't gone anywhere. Cale Gundy hasn't gone anywhere. And yet it seems that Nick Saban is making a really hard push to flip Jase McClellan for the Alabama recruiting class. Now, there's a number of things that could go into that, not the least of which is Alabama can say that they compete for and win national championships, and they certainly can say that they put running backs into the NFL. That's also true for Oklahoma with regard to putting running backs in the NFL. But I think more of this is coming back to how do you feel about your situation going into next year? How would you feel about your situation if the worst should happen, right? Because, for instance, Trey Sanders, I have really high expectations for. I think he's going to be coming back and be great for Alabama. I also know that Oklahoma has been really, really nervous about this, but my colleague at OUinsider.com, Brandon Drum, reported earlier, like this morning actually, that he talked with Jase's mom, and as far as she knows, he's still committed. That's not exactly what you would want to hear. You want to hear like 100% we're firm, we're not going anywhere, but you also need to understand that McClellan is a really talented tailback and one of the most physically impressive tailbacks in the 2020 class, which is littered with physically impressive tailbacks, 202 pounds, about 5'11". His Alito high school football team has been very, very good of late. I myself personally think that he's still going to sign with Oklahoma, and there's nothing wrong with flirting with other schools if you got that kind of flex, because I know that there's a number of coaches that don't like you flirting with other programs if you're committed, to which I say, hey man, if you got the juice, what are they going to tell you? So if I'm Jase, I'm going to try to weigh my options. I'm going to see where I feel good, where I actually would like to graduate, where I think that I have the best opportunity to get in the NFL playing running back, because that's what's on the table for him. Now, the next thing I want to talk about was the conflicting stuff about Reggie Grimes, for which there has been a report that he ain't going to sign on early signing day, and then there's Grimes saying that he will sign on early signing day, and his dad saying he won't, and then there's this thing about maybe he'll sign, but he'll have the ceremony in February, which sounds a lot like a silent signing, because those things still exist where you send in your paperwork, you just don't tell anybody what you did, and we've seen that work out for guys that want to announce on NBC at the All-America game or at Under Armour All-America game, because guys want to announce when they want to announce, but having the paperwork is something else entirely, right? Because once you have the paperwork, he's signed to you. It doesn't matter what he says or when he says it. I'll be interested to see how that goes. I still think that Reggie Grimes is going to be committed to Oklahoma. And we'll see how this figures for Alabama, because they're also trying to put together still their top 5 recruiting class and make sure it's shored up in all the ways that they need it to be. And Nick Saban versus Lincoln Riley head up, that's a pick'em for me, man, because one guy's a really great recruiter, another guy's a really great recruiter. One guy is at the forefront of modern football and in the college football playoff. The other guy is having to recruit around the Citrus Bowl and recruit around Lane Kiffin trying to poach his staff. among other things. But if anybody's built to withstand that kind of pressure and to still go into enemy territory and come out with a commitment and signing, it's Nick Saban. So I'll be interested to see how this goes for Jase, as I was mentioning. I also think that more of this is smoke than anything else. I think a lot of this is just what happens around signing day. I think that if you're fretting over this, I'm not going to say you're wrong to, because obviously you care and you really want the class to fill out the way that it's been filled out. And there's a lot of people that have invested a lot of their own personal viewing time into what some of these kiddos have been doing since they were 14, 15, 16 years old, myself included. But I've always come down on, I want the kids to do what's right for the kid, and I want them to be happy. And if Jase thinks that he's going to be happy at Alabama, I want that for him. I don't care what you think about it, because he's a human being. You're a human being. Your team is not necessarily his team. But if he signs, that's what it is. And if you're going to trust 3 years of a relationship, then trust it. If you're not, then don't, right? I also think I'm thinking before I speak. I'm aware of the rumors of suspension, just as you are aware of the rumors of suspension. But that's as far as I'm willing to take this, man. I talk to people like everybody else has talked to people. I understand that you have a feeling about it. I understand that you're reading somebody else's tweets or whatever, and you think you know something. Until Lincoln Riley says he knows something, I'm going to let this one go, man. Because the more that I dug into this, the more I got conflicting information, the more I just wanted to get my hands as far away from this as I can while also covering the team. Because, if people are suspended for the LSU game, for the college football playoff, for the Peach Bowl, for the biggest game on the schedule this year, yeah, you're going to be very disappointed. We all would. But that's stating the obvious, right? And I don't want to necessarily state the obvious, but that's as far as I'm willing to take this. Because I think a lot of this is stupid. I think a lot of the conjecture around it is also stupid. As a person who basically dabbles in conjecture like every day, because a take is a take, right? A take is an opinion. I'm trying to think of a different angle. I'm trying to think of an open loop and a closed loop to form an argument, to not just give you an information, because you can get information anywhere, but be entertaining about it and give you a different way of thinking about things. But with this, down the line on this, I'm going to wait for Lincoln Riley to say anything, if anything, he has to say at the National Signing Day press conference, which I understand is going to be, or was supposed to be celebratory, but even now with the Jase McClellan news, you don't know how it's going to go. That wouldn't be the worst. That wouldn't be the end of the world, because as I get into, Seth McGowan is still in this class, and you could probably go pull another running back, even though Jase is absolutely the guy you want. You also ran off a couple of kids because you wanted Jase, and you were willing to let everybody know that Jase is your top tailback, and you wanted to pair him with McGowan, and McGowan basically was paired with Jase because they wanted to play together and they wanted to be a part of this class. I get that nobody wants to talk about bad news until they want to talk about bad news. And we got a bunch of people without their names attached to things that want to talk about bad news. Fine. You go right ahead. I am not going to participate in this particular trash conversation. All right. That's it for me. Deuces.